Upgrading technology has become a part of modern life. Every year, new phones, laptops, and gadgets appear with flashy commercials promising a better future. But very few people stop and ask whether they actually needed the upgrade at all. Instead of buying a brand new phone after 4 years, consider this as an option. Factory reset your old phone and replace the battery. Suddenly, the phone feels almost brand new again. Just those two quick actions reduce the need to upgrade a perfectly good phone for no reason. My name is Ben, and I explain personal finance using 3 different versions of myself to show you how different types of people make decisions based on their current financial situation. Broke Ben hears the idea of keeping an old phone and laughs immediately. He cannot imagine keeping the same phone for 4 years because he thinks older devices make people look unsuccessful. To him, technology is more about image than usefulness. Budget Ben reacts differently. He starts wondering how many devices he replaced too early simply because advertisements convinced him they were outdated. He realizes convenience and impulse are not the same thing. Baller Ben sees the deeper pattern instantly. He understands companies make billions by turning perfectly functional tools into emotional status symbols. The faster consumers replace devices, the richer corporations become. This entire system operates through what could be called the upgrade illusion. People are trained to believe old automatically means bad. The illusion works so well that consumers often replace devices long before they actually fail. The first tactic behind this illusion is software-induced obsolescence. Most people assume older phones slow down because the hardware physically wears out. In reality, software updates often create most of the performance problems. Apple once paid over $100 million to settle lawsuits connected to slowing older iPhones through software throttling. Many consumers assumed their phones were dying naturally. Instead, the software intentionally reduced performance. Broke Ben experiences this slowdown and instantly panics. He rushes to the Apple Store, convinced his phone is ancient and unusable. Within hours, he walks out with a $1,000 replacement and another monthly payment. Budget Ben takes a more practical approach. Before upgrading, he researches battery health and realizes replacing the battery costs less than $100. One inexpensive repair restores most of the performance issues. Baller Ben understands something even more important. He knows companies profit most when consumers confuse maintenance problems with replacement problems. A simple fix destroys the entire upgrade cycle. Android users face similar pressure. Many manufacturers stop software support after only a few years, even though the phones themselves still function perfectly well. Consumers are pushed toward upgrades through security fears and compatibility concerns. The same pattern exists with computers. Millions of perfectly working laptops suddenly became obsolete when Windows 11 introduced strict hardware requirements. Devices capable of everyday tasks overnight became labeled outdated. Broke Ben never questions these announcements. If a company says his device is old, he assumes replacing it is the responsible thing to do. He mistakes corporate marketing for objective truth. Ben notices how strange this system really is. His laptop still handles email, streaming, and spreadsheets perfectly fine. Yet software labels alone make people feel technologically behind. Baller Ben recognizes the psychology involved. If companies can control the definition of obsolete, they can control consumer behavior almost indefinitely. Perception becomes more powerful than functionality. The second tactic is feature marketing and artificial inadequacy. Every year, companies present small improvements as revolutionary breakthroughs. Commercials make older devices look embarrassing overnight. Smartphone cameras are one of the clearest examples. The difference between a recent flagship phone and a brand new one is nearly invisible for most daily users. Social media compression hides most quality differences anyway. Processor speeds improve every generation too. But for regular activities like texting, browsing, or watching videos, the extra performance barely changes daily life at all. Most users never come close to using the device's full power. Broke Ben watches launch events like sporting events. He becomes emotionally attached to features he will probably never use once. Marketing convinces him owning older technology means falling behind in life. Budget Ben starts asking smarter questions. Instead of asking what is new, he asks what his current phone actually cannot do anymore. That single question changes the entire decision-making process. Baller Ben understands the goal of these events is not education. The goal is manufacturing dissatisfaction with products that already work perfectly fine. The companies are selling emotions more than technology. Battery life marketing works the same way. Companies advertise slightly longer battery performance every year, but larger screens and brighter displays often cancel out most of the gains anyway. Consumers rarely realize how tiny many yearly improvements actually are. A phone might be 15% faster on paper, but feel identical in real-world usage. Human psychology fills in the gap that performance improvements cannot justify. The third tactic is ecosystem lock-in. Companies build entire digital lifestyles around their products. Once consumers enter the system, leaving becomes painful and inconvenient. Apple perfected this strategy with iCloud, iMessage, AirDrop, and synchronized device settings. Everything works together so smoothly that switching platforms suddenly feels stressful. Convenience quietly becomes dependency. Broke Ben loves the feeling of instant syncing between devices, but he never notices how deeply connected his purchases become over time. Every new product increases the cost of leaving the ecosystem later. Budget Ben appreciates convenience, but stays aware of the trade-off. He realizes frictionless upgrades are intentionally designed to encourage more spending. Simplicity in one direction often means restriction in another. Baller Ben sees ecosystems as financial traps, disguised as convenience. Once people store years of photos, passwords, subscriptions, and habits inside one platform, changing becomes emotionally exhausting. Consumers stop evaluating alternatives objectively. Social pressure makes ecosystem lock-in even stronger. Entire friend groups and families often use the same platform. Suddenly, switching devices feels like breaking social compatibility. The fourth tactic is status anxiety. Technology companies transformed phones and laptops into social symbols instead of practical tools. Owning an older device can create embarrassment even when it works perfectly fine. Broke Ben constantly checks what phone other people are using. He feels proud pulling out the newest device in public because he thinks expensive technology proves success. Validation becomes part of the purchase. Budget Ben notices how strange this behavior really is. Nobody judges a hammer for being 2 years old if it still works properly. Yet society treats phones almost like fashion accessories. Baller Ben realizes manufacturers intentionally redesign devices visually every year for this exact reason. If nobody could identify which model was newer, much of the status pressure would disappear immediately. Even workplaces reinforce the illusion. Showing up with older technology can sometimes create assumptions about competence or financial stability. Appearances quietly shape professional perception. The fifth tactic is making repairs difficult and expensive. Many devices are intentionally designed to discourage maintenance. Companies earn more from replacements than repairs. Batteries used to be removable in seconds. Now many are glued inside devices, requiring specialized tools and expensive labor just to replace a part that naturally degrades over time. Repair became intentionally inconvenient. Broke Ben never even considers repair. Once his battery weakens, he automatically assumes the entire phone is finished. He replaces $1,000 devices because of problems worth less than $100 to fix. Budget Ben researches repair options before buying new devices. He realizes many performance issues are surprisingly fixable with small upgrades or maintenance. Knowledge protects him from unnecessary spending. Baller Ben studies how companies restrict third-party repairs too. Software locks, serialized parts, and legal barriers all make independent repair shops less effective. Consumers lose affordable alternatives. A family replacing devices instead of repairing them could waste thousands of dollars every decade. Small decisions repeated over many years quietly destroy wealth accumulation. Convenience often carries hidden financial costs. The sixth tactic is subscription models. Technology companies increasingly want consumers paying forever instead of purchasing once. Ownership slowly transforms into permanent renting. Software companies like Adobe and Microsoft shifted from one-time purchases to monthly subscriptions. Consumers now pay continuously just to maintain access to tools they once fully owned. The costs compound quietly over time. Broke Ben signs up for subscriptions constantly without tracking them carefully. Streaming services, cloud storage, apps, and software slowly drain his income every month. The payments feel small individually, but massive collectively. Ben reviews subscriptions regularly. He cancels services he barely uses and avoids paying for convenience he no longer values. Small recurring expenses receive serious attention. Baller Ben understands subscriptions are powerful because they normalize permanent spending. Once consumers become emotionally dependent on services, companies gain predictable long-term revenue streams. Habits become business models. The math behind upgrade cycles becomes shocking when viewed over decades. Replacing a $1,000 phone every 2 years instead of every 4 years can cost thousands in direct spending alone. Investing the difference multiplies the gap dramatically. A household extending the lifespan of all devices by just 50% could potentially save several $1,000s every year. Over an entire working lifetime, that difference becomes enormous. Many people unknowingly sacrifice wealth for tiny convenience improvements. Broke Ben sees upgrades as harmless rewards. He never calculates the long-term investment opportunities lost from constant replacements. Present excitement blinds him to future consequences. Budget Ben starts thinking differently after seeing the math clearly. He realizes delayed upgrades are not deprivation at all. They are strategic financial decisions. Baller Ben understands the real opportunity cost. Every unnecessary upgrade steals money that could compound into investments, businesses, or financial freedom later. Tiny leaks sink ships slowly. To avoid manipulation, there are 5 important questions before upgrading anything. The first question is simple. What specific task is impossible on the current device? Not slower, not less exciting. Impossible. The second question asks whether basic maintenance has been attempted first. Factory resets, battery replacements, storage cleanups, SSD upgrades, and RAM improvements often solve most performance complaints surprisingly well. The third question focuses on honesty. Is the upgrade solving a real problem or satisfying a vague emotional desire? Many purchases collapse under this level of self-awareness. The fourth and fifth questions examine total lifetime cost and social pressure. Accessories, subscriptions, insurance, and financing all increase the true price dramatically. Meanwhile, embarrassment and comparison often drive the urge more than practical need. Of course, some upgrades are genuinely justified. Professionals whose income depends on performance can often calculate clear financial returns from better hardware. Real capability gaps absolutely exist. But most consumers are not replacing broken tools. They are replacing functional devices because companies train them to associate new with better and old with failure. The illusion survives because questioning it feels uncomfortable. In the end, technology should behave like a tool, not fashion. A hammer does not become useless because a newer hammer exists, and the same logic applies to phones, laptops, and tablets. The moment people separate real needs from manufactured wants, they stop financing the upgrade illusion and start building actual wealth instead. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about how 3 different versions of myself make upgrade decisions in different ways. Remember that you have the majority control over your emotions and decisions when it comes to your finances. Subscribe for more helpful money tips from the money faces of Ben.